Welcome to Matter of Facts. I'm here with my good friend, colleague, co-host, Mr. James
Hang
Collins.
on, I'm not esteemed anymore.
You're
what
esteemed.
happened?
He's esteemed. He's still esteemed. He's the most esteemed man I know. In the studio with Mr. Collins. In the Podstarter studio on Barrington Street. We love it here.
In glorious Halifax, New Brunswick.
Whoa! Slip of the tongue. Anyways, we're super excited to be here. We have a really good guest today. Very exciting stuff. James, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's spring out there. I've got the Hawaiian shirt on.
Yep, I like that one.
I have 10 Hawaiian shirts, which I rotate, so you see them 3 times a month.
Yep.
And then I wear them when the weather's nice, which means you see each one 3 times. And then I get back in my snowsuit. But no, it's good. You can always attribute my mood to how I'm dressed. So you can tell I'm in a very, very upbeat mood.
You're in a great mood.
And you're looking sharp as ever. You've got your Halifax Tides pin on.
I do got my Halifax Tides
Maybe a bit of a hint.
Yeah, I got my pin on. That's a pretty blatant hint. We have a couple other things to talk about today, too, as we usually do. Let's kick it off.
Let's do it.
Insane as the crane.
Insane is the crane. Insane is the crane. Kinda insane like the crane.
Insane as the crane this month. We're discussing booze. No conversation is greater in Atlantic Canada than booze. And we're touching on this thing, which is a sort of, we think it's insane. Well, I'm going to have a rant about this, but the backstory is there is increasing teasing, you tease me, going on that they will be selling alcohol in corner stores soon in Nova Scotia. This is all driven by the Atlantic Convenience Store Alliance, who are advocating.
I didn't even know there was an Atlantic Convenience Store Alliance.
Apparently, they're advocating to get booze in our stores, and this is inspired by the recent move in Ontario to allow beer, wine, and ready-to-drink cocktails in stores. Now, they're arguing the change would support local craft brewers who struggle to get shelf space at NSLC stores. Now, this is the big thing to know. There's no firm current plans, nothing at the municipal or the provincial level. I mean, essentially they could find a flying pig or a unicorn on Citadel Hill before this ever happens. But the major conversation it has is the support it brings our local brewers and distillers, which it would be, of course, a game changer for, because NSLC has limited shelf space. This would allow them to increase production. So following the Ontario model, which Atlantic Canada often does. Do you think, as an Atlantic Canadian, what do you think? Do you
what do I think? I like it. I think it's a good idea. It's convenient for me. I'm selfish. It's close to my house. NSLC is a bit of a longer drive for me. Not a super long drive, but long enough that a Needs would be way better. And we go to Needs all the time for stuff. Just pick up random stuff on the way home if I forgot something. It usually has everything you need. Anyways, I think it's great. I want to hear your rant.
Well, what's so new about this? I grew up in a continent where you can buy booze on a railway station platform. You can buy booze on a train. You can buy booze in every convenience store. You can Marks and Spencer to anybody. You can buy booze in clothing stores. They have clothing stores with holiday displays with wine that you can buy. You can crack a beer in the UK and you can walk down the high street. No one says boo. You go to a rugby game in Cardiff, the Welsh national rugby game, and you get a beer on the train. You can walk right through the city in the stores with it. Nice. Suddenly, we come to Atlantic Canada. Prohibition is essentially still in place. It's the 1920s. And culturally, why is it so taboo to allow people to access alcohol? To me, the problems that are driven by access to alcohol don't exist, right? There's all these people saying, well, it'll cause more DUIs, it'll cause more people to get dependent on alcohol. It's not good for children to be around who are all going to drink when they grow up. And parents, if your kids are in university right now, then believe me, they're not studying.
Yep.
I do not see this as even as a news story. This is so behind. This is the equivalent of a podcast somewhere else in the world discussing the fact that electricity might be there soon. This needs to happen. I was shocked when I came to Canada and found that there was one government-controlled store where you can buy booze. Yeah. You can go to a park in the UK. In fact, I got photos on my phone of Jenny 9 Hyde Park in London. You can go to a park in the UK and there's a kid's ice cream truck who will serve you beer or gin and tonic. I don't know. We're behind in Nova Scotia.
I agree. I mean, we might as well have vending machines around the streets.
I'm a vending machine right now.
You are a vending machine. That's okay, because I agree with you. I think it's behind the times to even suggest that this is like some sort of novel idea. Like it's it's happening around. It happened. New Brunswick. Does New Brunswick do it?
They just did it a couple of months ago.
They just did it recently?
I think just beer and wine, no
Yeah.
hard liquor. But do you remember when they opened up Argyle Street for like 2 hours on a Friday night, and you could take booze outside?
That's awesome.
You have to show ID. There's private security. There's barricades. Like, what the people?
I know.
Wake up. We don't need to do it that way.
I know.
We need to remove the taboo. You should be able to sit in a park, on a bus, drinking.
I know. I actually.
And I'm not someone who drinks much.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you. It's just like having that freedom of. I know PEI is a little loose with that one. I know. Remember our work trip there that time. And
I was in hospital.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, it's okay.
But we did a grand.
I didn't die.
No, I know. Clearly, we did a grand tour of with the Gahan House and a few other locations, and from place to place, we were able to have a drink in our hand and walk around. They're pretty loose there, downtown Charlottetown, but that was good. I think it'd be awesome to have here. I mean, what's the major difference between I'm drinking right here, or I open this door, walk in this pub, stand, not even sitting at a table, and now I can drink. Like, I don't know. Like, I think you should be able to go out and about. So it's definitely a bigger issue. Actually, I shouldn't call it an issue. There's real issues in the world, but in terms of this, yeah, bring them back. Bring them into the convenience stores. Let's buy our booze. Make it convenient for me. In my needs, Caldwell Road. Start there.
Make booze convenient again.
I like that.
I think
I can get behind that. Moving on, a great insane is the crane. And as we move on to our new segment of season 3, which we've seen some success with, Harbor of Lies. It is your turn to bring me a story that is true or false. What do you got?
Well, originally I'd done lots of research on this because I claim my story to be true,
Yeah.
and which it is true.
Yeah, no,
of course,
believe you.
because it's the name of the game, and I did so much research on this. I wrote some stuff out, and then I kind of went through it again. It's all in my head now, so normally I would kind of read a little thing about it, but I just did so much research and got down such a rabbit hole online with the story yesterday. Okay, so this is the story I've got for you today, which is...
Game begin.
One time this is insane as the crane, it should be the insane as the crane segment. At one point in time, there were 2 lighthouses at Peggy's Cove, but one was a prank. So, it was 1954. And a group of local teenagers created 15-foot plywood sides, so not as tall as anywhere near Peggy's Cove lighthouse. They created plywood sides, which they painted white and they painted red on top. And over a couple of nights, they took them just north of the Peggy's Cove lighthouse and assembled them on the side of the rocks. Now, of course, it was much smaller than the Peggy's Cove lighthouse. Couple of kilometers away. But from the perspective, depending on where you looked at it, it was extremely convincing. Now, they also took a headlamp from a truck and they put a little beacon light on top and they powered it up with a truck battery. Now, it didn't last very long, the second prank wooden Peggy's Cove lighthouse, because a Navy vessel which made its way into Halifax reported the fact that their visual on Peggy's Cove lighthouse did not match up with what their navigation equipment was reading on the boat. The Coast Guard in Halifax at the time got whiff. Why is the Peggy's... Now, I don't know much about this, but supposedly they get from a certain point their bearing to the lighthouse. They saw the 15-foot wooden prank second Peggy's Cove lighthouse, and the bearing did not match up. So they reported this to the Coast Guard when they got into the port of Halifax. The Coast Guard started an investigation, but it didn't really go anywhere because by that point, the teenagers had dismantled the wooden lighthouse. Turns out about a month later, there was a dance. I don't know where it was in HRM, but at this dance, a couple of kids started boasting that they built a replica Peggy's Cove lighthouse, and they put it on the side of the rocks, and it lasted about a week. News of that traveled back to the Coast Guard and eventually to the RCMP, who decided that they would not prosecute the kids, and I'll get to why in a second. All they did was they banned them from the general area of Peggy's Cove for the rest of that summer. The reason that they couldn't charge the children is because the kids hadn't actually committed a crime. There is nothing illegal about building a replica lighthouse. Just like the one when you drive to New Brunswick. You see that little one on the side of the road? So the kids didn't commit any crimes, but it turns out that the wooden lighthouse that they did put up confused a ship. So that's my story. Now, there is no photographs of it, apparently. I couldn't find any photographs looking at after discovering the story. But if you go to Peggy's Cove and you speak to some people who are now very old, many of them still remember the summer when there were 2 lighthouses at Peggy's Cove.
It was a long story.
So that's my story.
When did this take place?
1954.
Oh, yeah, you said that. 1954. 1954. And how'd you hear about this?
Online, I Googled strange but true stories about Halifax and got down
I've done that too.
a massive rabbit hole so big that I didn't even need to type. I typed notes out, and then I spent so long reading about this and trying to find pictures that I ended up not even needing.
So is that for a full week and no photos?
No photos. Well, cameras were...
No, you take photos back then.
There were cameras, but Peggy's Cove population then, remember, was in the dozens. And news didn't travel to Halifax. People weren't driving out to see it, like when iPhones.
Okay. Interesting. It was a very long-winded story.
It was a long-winded story.
Usually when you add a lot of details, it means you're full of shit. But at the same time...
well, maybe I am, but it's true.
What do you mean it's true?
It's true, because you can Google this online. I mean, not allowed to as part of the game, but if you go Google strange but true stories of Halifax, you will find this.
I do have some more questions. It's hard because you say you got it off Google. They didn't prosecute because you answered a lot of the questions within the story. That's
there was no law. So building a replica lighthouse isn't a crime.
And what they build it out of, you said?
Plywood.
15 feet high.
15 feet high. A few sheets of plywood with a truck lamp on top.
And no one caught them while they were doing it. And they took it down themselves.
They took it down themselves, yeah.
They took it
and
down.
I don't know why.
They took it down themselves.
I think maybe someone on the land or a parent told them they got guilty. Either it vanished after about a week.
15 feet tall, like, how tall is the regular lighthouse?
It's like 60, so it's about a quarter the size. That's the point is, from the certain perspectives with the light, it can look the forced perspective of the lighthouse, but it was much smaller than the original.
But geez, like I just feel like as a ship coming in, like they wouldn't even like notice that. It'd be so small.
They saw the light.
It'd be so insignificant though to the big main one.
So, does my story ring true, or does it exist in the Harbor of Lies?
It exists in the Harbor of Lies.
You want to second guess yourself?
No.
Connor, what do you think?
I think for the sake of plot, I'm going to have to go the opposite way. I'm going to say this is true.
Do you see merit to the story?
Yeah, I imagine kids living out in Peggy's Cove way in the 50s had absolutely nothing to do, so that totally tracks.
Okay. It's BS. It's in the Harbor of Lies. Well done. I actually had ChatGPT create it, and the reason I wasn't reading it was I accidentally deleted the thread this morning.
Oh, ChatGPT created it. Yes, I'm glad. Oh, nice to get a win.
Well done.
Feels good.
How does ChatGPT know about the culture of small-town Nova Scotia hooliganism, though, is my question.
Oh, it knows everything.
I just thought there was too many details. That's my thing. There was too.
So that's what
I gave you a one-line.
Strip the detail away.
Well, yes or no. It's my turn next.
So Alec was successful in Harbor of Lies. It's about the only thing he's ever been successful at in life. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. You're a very successful guy. But we have a very successful guest coming into the studio right now.
We do.
And she has arrived and looking eager to answer all of our questions. So I think we should interview Courtney.
Let's bring her in. Well, we have a very special guest in the studio with us today. We have Dr. Courtney Sherlock, the co-founder and CEO of the Halifax Tides FC, the newest professional women's soccer team in Halifax, Nova Scotia. She's also a veterinarian and business owner in HRM with 6 veterinary hospitals and various other investments, and she was honored as one of Atlantic Canada's top 50 CEOs in 2022, and the Halifax Tides just 2 days ago had their inaugural home opener game, which we're definitely going to talk about. Courtney, we're thrilled to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
No, this is awesome.
We decorated the studio, which we don't normally do.
I
know,
love
look at
it.
this.
The holiday episode, we try to get a few things on the wall, but we are very Tides themed. It's very apt in here today. Looks good.
Yeah, we'll get some good content for sure. So it's all the buzz right now. The Halifax Tides having their first game and the season kicking off, and we're starting to see some great partnerships. And obviously, we got some merch here. So I guess my first question would be, what led you to your involvement with the Halifax Tides? How did it sort of begin? Because the league itself is new as well. So how did you get involved? What was the starting point for you that drove you to getting involved and co-founding the Halifax Tide?
Sure. So it all started back in October of 2023 when the national women's team were coming to play. If you remember, they played on the Wonders grounds on Halloween. And my daughters play soccer, and they love it. And so I was trying to reach out to people that I knew in Halifax to see if we could get an intro to the team or if there was any meet and greets, that sort of thing, which I wasn't able to do. But I was introduced to another lady, Miriam Zittner, by a friend and mentor of mine who said, you two should meet. She's really involved in soccer. So I said, great. So we had a coffee in early November, and Miriam was the one who told me about the fact that Canada did not have a domestic women's league, a professional a league. And so she said, there's a group of 5 ladies in Halifax are trying to bring a team to Halifax. So at that point, the 5 other teams had been chosen, and they needed 6 to start a league. And I said, well, let me know if I can volunteer and help. And so she said, well, let's have a meeting. So we had a meeting shortly thereafter in one evening. And I realized that what we really needed was someone to pick up the pen and take on the challenge, financial and work-wise. And I said, well, why not me? What are we waiting for? We've been trying with others, and no one has said yes. So I said, yep, this is it. I'm interested. And that was after doing some research and understanding what was going on in the world of professional women's sports and that sort of thing.
100%. So were we up against other cities? Did you have to put a bid in, or was it kind of just like they had selected 5 and they needed a 6th and you just gave them a proposal and went for it? Or was there an actual formal process where you're kind of up against competition?
So no competition, but they absolutely had, they didn't have any teams in Atlantic Canada. So that was a goal of theirs. So as soon as I came forward and met the criteria, they were like, yeah, we're good.
Oh, awesome.
What does it take to get this team put together? Because the way I see this, from the fans' perspective and the public's perspective, this past weekend is sort of the launch of something. But for you, it's also the end of a long process of getting to that point. I've always used this I'm supposed to make this joke that when you get on a cruise ship, who is responsible for making sure that every knife and every napkin and every Band-Aid and every paperclip is on there? Like, I've always said, if you put me in charge of that, we would have this inaugural sailing. And as the ship sails away, I'd be like, oh, shoot, we forgot to put plates and bowls on the boat, right? And there's like so much you have to do, so many little things. Can you speak to that at all, this mammoth project that you've just been through?
Yeah, absolutely. So you described it really well. So one of the first things, so I signed the LOI in December of 2023, and by January, February, I'd already started hiring, right? So the key for me is to surround myself with people who are experts in what they do. So right away it was marketing to start with, branding, because one of the first things we need is to have a brand that speaks to what we're going to do. A sporting director, because they're going to build out their sporting team. And then one of the biggest wins for me was when I was able to hire my president, Valerie Malone, who is really the captain of that ship. So, and she makes sure that all the people that are working with her are knowing all of the details. But you're absolutely right. So many moving parts, and we start macro, and then every day you get a little bit more micro in the details. And then until you find yourself on a Saturday saying, okay, this is our first game. And what are all these tiny little things that we haven't thought of and need to worry about? But I can speak to, I was really just a fan there, and anything that went wrong, I didn't know about it. So it was, they took care of it. They took care of it. It was great. So, and I haven't heard any negative feedback from anyone that I've heard that was there. So
good. And you talk about it getting bigger sort of every day and with every step. Ultimately being sport, it spills over to the community because it's a thing that's bigger than what you've created. So can you talk a bit about community engagement with the Tides and what that looks like and how you plan to connect with the local community, and I think also contribute to the wider mission and discussion of women's sports in Nova Scotia?
Sure. Well, having the community involved and being a part of the community is one of our foundations for sure. Because if the community is not behind you, then you're already done. right? And especially in soccer or football, you know what it's like. Where you're
I appreciate
from,
that. Thank you very much. I grew up a rugby fan, but football, yes. Everyone always says they don't know I know the term soccer. So a lot of people say soccer, football for you. I appreciate it. The translation.
Yeah, we do football or actual football.
That's right. Yeah.
But the fans are passionate, right? We need them to be loving the team, supporting the team, showing up for us, whether it's just simply sharing something on social media, whether it's wearing our brand, whether it's coming to the game. So it's absolutely essential that the community believes in us. And one of the mandates that we have is that we're going to set up an academy program, and that's going to be a big part of the community too. So we're giving the girls a pathway to go from I'm a youth player to I want to be a professional player. And that we can talk about that in a whole other capacity if you want, but that's really the ethos of why we're here.
100%. And it's amazing that young women can come watch them play and have something to aspire to. It's right there. It's tangible. It's something they can really achieve and go after that. So you did mention about how, if there's any issues that showed up on game day, you would have noticed your team took care of it. I got to think that with any professional sports team and getting it off the ground, there comes their challenges leading up. What were some challenges you guys might have faced? Or maybe they're not that major, maybe they're minor, but just some common obstacles you went through on the way to launching Tides FC.
Sure. So one of the biggest obstacles was with the team kit. So the league has a deal with the kit provider, and so they had a massive influx of all 6 teams' orders at the same time. So just getting the correct sizes, the correct quantities in the timing that you wanted it.
These are not our jerseys.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's supposed to be teal, but this is actually blue. Those sorts of things, right? So those are challenges. That was a challenge, and then sorting out the schedule and the grounds, right? So the city, working with the city, working with the scheduler for our league, working with the scheduler for the Wanderers. So it's like a big jigsaw puzzle there. Yeah, but it'll get easier every year.
Absolutely. I'm just excited to see where it goes from here, right? Having that first game under your belt, incredible. One thing I thought was really cool, and I regret I wasn't able to make it, but I saw some photos online of the players coming to the game, entrances, and people being able to meet the players. Do you envision doing a lot more of that? More of, we mentioned the community involvement, but pre-game, post-game, players meeting the fans, meeting the kids, taking photos. Like, is that a big part of it for you guys too?
Yeah, as long as the players enjoy it, then we would love to have them do that. And we certainly have events that we're working on through the calendar year of that if the players want to be involved, we'll get them there, whether it's hospitals or coaching events for soccer games. We're doing like the Bell Let's Talk Day. There's all kinds of things like that we'd love to see the players at. So I definitely think there'll be a ton of opportunity. And professional female athletes are way more likely to engage with their fan base. It's quite known. And they also do such a great job on social media as well. So there tends to be that relationship with the players.
100%.
Yeah.
Incredible. And let's talk soccer football very quickly in a wider sense. So when teams establish, the initial thought is, well, we're giving people that already enjoy the sport something local, something to own, something to follow. I didn't grow up with hockey. I don't follow it at a granular level, but if I get an invite to go, I really enjoy going to watch the sport. So almost asking you to pitch in a way, but for people that, like me, didn't grow up around soccer, it wouldn't be the standard default Saturday evening's entertainment. Why should they come to a game? I mean, I know the answers here, and it's the same reason I'll always go and see bands that I don't maybe purchase their music, but to me, live music, if it's there, if it's happening, it's a short-term thing. You need to go and support it, and it's always great to see something live. But why should people who've not followed soccer consider coming along?
Yeah, so we definitely talk about this when we talk about who's our core customer and what kind of product are we putting out there. So really what we want people to come and experience is the energy and the fun, right? So our goal is that people come and yes, there's a soccer game being played, but also what else is happening there? What are we experiencing with the food, with the beverages, with the entertainment, with the games, with seeing your friends, the music? We want it to be an experience that people are coming to enjoy. And then they are there and they just feel this energy and this vibe and they go, oh, this is a great time. this is an awesome way to spend a couple of hours. I want to come back again. And really part of the goal is that we want to create new fans, right? So there are those core customers, and we have such an incredible community of soccer fans who just showed up from day one buying the season tickets. We've sold so many season tickets, and we know they're coming. How do we get those other people that have never seen the game or loosely know the game, right? And that's our goal as well, to grow the fan base.
And I think that'll be very successful, and you'll convert a lot of people. And you talk briefly about an academy. You don't have to divulge anything you don't want to, but you're more than welcome to with anything you do want to discuss. So just say now, a young girl is at the games and she sees the players and she's never played soccer, and she leaves and says to mum and dad, I want to do this. How are you trying to promote and tie into the future of soccer through maybe the fans you'll create with the Tides?
Sure. So right now, the way that it works, and if your kids play soccer, there's always an opportunity to play recreational soccer. If your kids are very, very good, you can play AA, AAA, then you can play maybe a Canada Games team. So that's what's happening this year. We've got the Canada Games. So we've got a core set of girls, and this would go for the boys as well, that can play at that higher level. But what happens in our market in Nova Scotia, Atlantic Canada, so Whitecaps, which is the soccer club out in Vancouver, have a sort of an outpost here where they offer a little bit of additional training for the really good youth players. And they did that because we don't have any opportunities in our market. So in soccer, there's what's called national development centers, and there's only a couple across the country. There's none here, right? So our goal is, how can we foster more talent locally when they're younger, so that we have more talent when they're teenagers, when they're at that age where they can be thinking about what their pathway is. And then can we get Canada Soccer to support us, where we can bring in what's an academy program, is basically the more talented kids, and then a national development center, which can feed into the national team, right? So we want to build all this up, and we're working with the Whitecaps right now that are doing it currently in a little capacity, but we want to grow it bigger. And every NSL team, our league, all of the 6 teams want to have their own program.
Okay. It's incredible. You mentioned earlier that for some of the players, it's their first time playing professional sports. Kind of walk me through how the team is picked. I only know, like, I'm a hockey guy, so I understand when there's an expansion team, there's an expansion draft, and everyone gets to pull a certain amount from each team. But when it's a brand new league and you have brand new teams, where do those players come from, and how are they found for the team?
Sure. So my sporting director is Amit Batra. So he ran the soccer program at Acadia University, did great things over there. And this was all him. And then so he got us set up with our head coach, Lewis Page, our assistant coaches. And essentially what they did was spent hours and hours and hours watching film. And not only just watching film, but going into their database of who have we seen come through our programs, who do we know who have gone through the national team programs, who are the up-and-comers. So in our league, there wasn't a draft. It was more about calling, right?
Okay.
Calling them, calling their agents. Most of these players actually have agents, thinking about who they've seen at games, at competitions, that sort of thing. And one of our goals was to have Nova Scotians, right? So we actually have 5 Nova Scotians, which is incredible, because in Canada, it's very Ontario and Vancouver centric in our sport. A lot of athletes come from there because that's where the majority of the opportunities are.
Yeah.
So it was important to us to try and find some fantastic Nova Scotia players and give them an opportunity to play at home. And then we have 8 internationals. So we do have internationals, and everybody else is Canadian. Yeah.
Oh, very good. It's awesome to have that local representation. That was what I was going to say next. Is like, it was important for you guys to have local representation on the team, and
absolutely
they must just be over the moon to play for this team.
Over the moon. So you talk to them, and they're like, my parents are coming, my grandparents are coming, my cousins are coming, the neighbors are coming, like it. And you'll see it all over social media, and you'll see the signs at the games, and they've got such a huge fan base. And a lot of our community, they've grown up saying, I either played with them, or I watched them play when they were a child, or I taught them in school, right? So it's another way to bring the community into what we're doing.
And for those international players, you're selling the team, of course, and the opportunity, but was coming to Atlantic Canada part of the draw for them? Because you look at a lot of young hockey players here who want to go to Scandinavia and play, and to them the draw is the place as well as the opportunity. I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, these weren't international players living in Canada. You actually brought them over. So where did Atlantic Canada itself play into that?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So I think that Canada as a whole is very attractive. Our league as a whole is very attractive. We have a very high salary cap. So international players were attracted to the league. And then what we have in Atlantic Canada, because we know we live here, we've got this offering. We're by the ocean. We're a big, small town. So if you don't want to get caught up in a crazy city, we're a great alternative. We're not as cold in the winter. We're not as hot in the summer. And one of the things that the sporting team did is when they were having these calls and having these meetings with players, they talk a lot about culture. And that's a huge thing that's talked about a lot in the locker room and amongst our team is our Atlantic Canadian culture and how we do things here.
And an opportunity for the local players to learn from the international players as well. Yeah,
for sure.
So let's look at the future. 3-5 years. What's the plan?
Well,
to win every game, yes.
Yes. Okay. So, gonna win, go all the way. We have a serious lack of infrastructure here in Nova Scotia, so would love to have that as something that we can be involved with is building more soccer facilities, right? Having the academy program standing up. The league itself, love to have a couple more expansion teams. So right now we're at 6. If we can, in a couple of years, maybe have a couple more. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Broaden our reach.
Yeah, 100%. So we mentioned, obviously being in Nova Scotia, it's all about collaboration and working together and being and supporting each other. So can you speak a little bit on the opportunities for the average person or a business or what have you to partner with the Halifax Tides, and what sort of ways can they do that with you guys? Can they get in touch with you, and opportunities are there for that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So we almost think that we have an opportunity for anybody who wants to be involved in some way, from as little as a season ticket all the way up to major sponsorships. So we have partners that are huge. They have jersey patches, they've got suites, they've got billboards, they've got signs, they've got all that stuff. But if you wanted, we've got everything in between that, right? So whether it's one sign, four tickets, or a suite and hosting a game. So there's a lot of different opportunities for businesses, no matter the size out there. And we want to support them. And if they want to support us, there's always an opportunity. So they can go to our website and get connected anytime.
It's very open and welcoming, because a lot of times with some teams we want to partner, it's got to be this grand, massive sponsorship or gesture. But the way you guys seem to be approaching it is, we want as many people involved as possible. We'll figure it out. We'll find a way.
Yep,
which is awesome.
That's right. So if a company comes and they say, I want a jersey patch, and then they say, well, maybe that's not in the budget. Okay, so let's talk about what is in the budget and how we can make that work.
Start working our way down or our way up.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned they can go on your website. Where else can we find the Halifax Tides? Where else can we connect with you guys, connect with the players and the socials?
We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Yep. HFX Tides FC.
And I will say you guys are very responsive. I've dealt with Allie at your office, and she's been very helpful with us in getting our season tickets, and very responsive, and just a hardworking crew. I could tell leading up. I know, like, when I came to the office that day, everyone's it's a nervous excitement. There's stress, but everyone's just I can't imagine how that must have felt. And James, you mentioned earlier, you finally build up to that one big day, and you're like, all right, we're here. Let's do this thing. And it must have been a bit of a weight off the shoulders to get that first game under the belt, but so exciting to see what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It's just everybody has been going 24/7 for so long, especially these last few weeks, getting the last few details across the line. And what I've always said is, look, we're going to play a game. We're going to have a game of soccer. Yeah. Everything else is just gravy, right? So let's get this first one out of the way. And now that we have, everybody took well-deserved Sunday and Monday off. So I was in the office this morning. I was the only one. So they're all hopefully sleeping or still in their pajamas. And then tomorrow will be a big debrief. And let's go through what happened that was great, what happened that we need to change. And we move on from there. Our next home game is on the 17th of May. So we've got a nice couple of weeks here to get ourselves together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we wish you all the best with it. And to me, this goes beyond the soccer. It goes beyond what happens on the field between the whistles. It's another example of Halifax growing, and it's everything we get, every new team, every new service, every new band that comes, every new restaurant that opens, I think just contributes to the wider story of the city. So, Courtney, we really thank you for coming on. Wish you guys all of the best, and please do come back. We're going to have to stick a pin in it here, but I think we need to continue the conversation. So let's make plans to have another conversation a little bit further down the line and see where everyone's at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you once again for tuning in to the Matter of Facts podcast.
But you can get more of us. You can subscribe on any good podcast provider. You can follow us on Instagram at Matter of Facts Podcast. And for all that great feedback and abuse, you can send it by email to halifaxpodcast@gmail.com.
And of course, you can always find James Collins and I on the internet.
Please do get in touch, and we look forward to seeing you next time.